What is up, guys? Top tier Yu-Gi-Oh here. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I just want to share my current version of Burning Abyss. And so this Burning Abyss deck profile is going to be a pure build. And the reason I'm deciding to play a pure version of Burning Abyss is because I think it's the most consistent. I think right now in a diverse and variable format, you need to have a deck that you can rely on through 8, 9, 10 rounds. And I believe that this is a deck that you can certainly trust in, at least when it comes to Burning Abyss decks. There are other very consistent decks, but between the Block Dragon list, the Cherubini Turbo list, or an Orcus list, I think this is the most consistent, and I believe it gives you the most flexibility to kind of adapt as well. So let's go ahead and get into the list, and if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and do not forget to smash the like button. Don't think I've ever said that before, but I hear it is good for the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, smash that like button, comment down below, really appreciate it. But let's go ahead and get into the profile. For the Burning Abyss engine cards, we have 3 Scarm, 2 Libic, 1 Seer, 1 Graph. This is pretty standard. You have to have these. This is what makes the deck so powerful in my opinion. I mean, it's very similar to Salamangreat, to where you just have a really efficient engine. You're able to constantly produce disruption, constantly able to produce more plays via Scarm and Seer and Graph. And when you have these going, this deck is very difficult to beat. And then for the non-engine Burning Abyss monsters, we have 2 Farfa, 2 Alec, 2 Barbar, 1 Rubik, 1 Cowcab, and 1 Cacna? Yeah, Cacna. I used to play 3 Farfa and 1 Alec, but I recently changed that to 2 Farfa and 2 Alex because I really wanted to reduce the chances of getting multiples of any of them. And 3 Farfa was just... opening multiple Farfas was happening too often. I mean, of course the odds aren't super high, but it does happen in a deck like this where we are playing a good number of normal summons, which you're going to see soon. You really don't want to have these become normal summons as well, because ideally all of your Burning Abyss monsters are special summons, barring like Graph, because you never want to special summon Graph or Seer from the hand. So Graph and Seer are usually kind of semi-nomi monsters, and then Scarm as well in most cases. And so you really don't want like these to be normal summons. These are definitely extenders in most cases. But you also want to have the utility in your deck as well, because there were some games to where I would maybe open with Alec in my hand, then needed to extend my plays with an Alec, but then on my opponent's turn want to want to send it to the graveyard with Beatrice and not be able to do that because I had already used the 1 in the deck. And so I do definitely like 2 Farfa, 2 Alex, and 2 Barbar, because Barbar is a card to where I hate to say it, but you're gonna win some games and matches because you get lucky and then mill 3 on your turn when there's a few minutes left on the clock. Like you're going to win games like that. And so I think it's important to give yourself that out, because it does add up. And even when you're not in that scenario, that extra 900 damage that you can get, or an extra 300 or 600 here or there, can be very powerful, especially in the late game, because you are going to be able to, if you see that line of play, you're going to be able to maybe use the effect 2 to 3 times in a game if you wish. And so that could be maybe 18 to maybe 20. I don't think I've ever done 2700 damage in a game, but it's certainly possible. But I will say you could do 18 to 24 if you really set your mind to it, and like you play to that line. You can do that, but you need 2 Barbars to do it. So I think this is the move. It also has a lot of attack. I think it's the highest attack Burning Abyss monster, which is sometimes relevant, especially if you're playing against like an Apollousa. Then you can usually get, usually they'll be at 2400 attack. You get 1 negate, puts it at 16, special summon Barbar and attack over it. That's also very relevant. I think it's the only Burning Abyss monster in this deck that has enough attack to do that. I mean, you could crash a Seer, but that's really bad. Yeah, so I think this is the only one. Then for the starter cards, we have 2 Tour Guides and 3 Scorpios. So this is already 5 normal summons. I think this is kind of the max normal summons you want to play in generally any 40 card deck, which this is. So this is why, again, I wanted to reduce the number of multiples of Burning Abyss monsters, because you don't want any extra normal summons on top of these. And now the thing with Scorpio is that sometimes you can discard like a Libic, and then that's going to help you get cards that you might want to have normal summons out of your hand. And so it can help with Libic sometimes, or also with Graph in that same regard. But in most cases, you really don't want to open multiples of these, but they are so powerful when they do resolve. And of course, we have the 1 copy of Cobra. And then for extenders, we have 4 Dangers, 2 Jackalopes, 2 Tsuchinoko, 1 Sea Archiver, which I really like a lot, because you can constantly use that from the hand or the graveyard. Then we have 2 Chaos Dragon Levianeers, and then 1 Gizmek. Chaos Dragon Levianeer is another card that I really enjoy because it's so powerful going first or going second, going first. Again, it can be an extender to put that extra monster in the board to get that Apollousa out, or going second, you can use it to clear cards on your opponent's side of the field. Plus, it has 3,000 attack, which is, you know, huge. Kind of addresses that problem that Burning Abyss has always had, to where just getting over big monsters has been problematic for the engine itself. While this isn't an engine card, it is very big, and it kind of helps with that. And Gizmek also does the same. Being 2450 allows it to get over a lot of threats in the format, and you can recur it, you can mill it with Dante, dump it with Beatrice. It's just very flexible. And so I really like these extenders a lot. One change that I am considering is maybe taking out the dangers for cards like Psychic Wheeler and Tracker, because the dangers have negative synergy with the Levianeers and also hand traps, and sometimes just other things you want to keep in your hand. Like sometimes you do open Scorpio, Tour Guide, Danger, and your Scorpio or your Tour Guide gets hand trapped, but you want to summon your extender to extend through it, but you don't want to have to risk discarding the other one in order to summon it, if that makes any sense. Like sometimes you have cards you want to keep in your hand, obviously you don't want to risk losing them for an extender, when a Psychic Wheeler or a Tracker would do the exact same thing. Like, I mean, sure, you discard something else, you could draw a card, so that's better than a Wheeler or Tracker, but at worst, you discard the card that you need, and it's worse. And so the dangers are something I'm considering changing, especially now that we're not playing a card like Curious. So before, in the Burning Abyss Orcus deck, we needed the dangers because they were dark. They were dark extenders of different types that would allow us to go into Curious, and then we could dump, you know, other things and do a bunch of combos like that. But in this deck, we're not really as focused on that, and so we really don't need things to be dark. We don't need them to be a different type or attribute or whatever. And so the dangers, in some regard, could be maybe something else. So that's something I'm definitely considering. And then the last monster is just two Ash Blossoms. Ash Blossom is a card I've been kind of wavering back and forth on because I don't think it's super impactful this format, but I think it's mild against most decks, if that makes any sense. I mean, the format again is so diverse that I just wanted to have something that to interact with my opponents with in case I get Nibiru or Dark Ruler No More, or something else happens evenly matched. Who knows? Whatever happens, I need to have some type of other disruption that isn't on my field. And I felt that Ash was just the most versatile option to have. Moving on to the spell cards, we have 2 Instant Fusions, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Pot of Avarice, and then 1 Monster Reborn. I think all of these are pretty standard. Foolish Burial I'm playing at 2 because I don't want to have multiples, but I also don't want to see it with the Predaplant cards. However, it is so powerful because so many decks just can't play through a window, and that I almost want to see it every single time I'm going first, but multiples is just terrible, especially in a deck like this to where you need every card in your hand to either be live or to help you disrupt your opponent. And I just could not deal with the fact that I was drawing multiples in so many games, and so I felt that 2 is probably the best number. And then the last 2 cards in the main deck are 2 Pot of Desires and then 2 Cosmic Cyclones. And so the reason for Pot of Desires is that I feel that you really need extra card advantage in so many games, because versus decks like Salamangreat, that's literally their win condition in so many cases. They're trying to outgrind you. You need ways to gain more resources. And Pot of Desires, I find, is one of the best ways to do that aside from Scarm. And so I've really enjoyed playing at this deck, and you don't have to worry about banishing anything in your deck anymore outside of Graph and Seer, but you're going to get those out of your deck after your first play. Like as soon as you make Cherubini, you're no longer going to have Graph and Seer in your main deck, and you're free to use Desires however you please. So I've definitely really enjoyed that, and there's so many good cards that you can draw into off of that Desires. I mean, any of these spell cards are very good to draw, or they're going to be hands to where you start with, let's say, 2 Burning Abyss cards and a Pot of Desires. Those 2 Burning Abyss make Cherubini, dump Graph, summon Seer. Now again, you don't have anything to worry about, and then you Desires into like a Tour Guide or a Scorpio, which again is so powerful. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus those other 5 spells. You have so many. You have maybe 10. Oh, Ash is good to draw, so I guess 12. I would say at least 12 cards in most hands that you just want to draw into, and so Desires is really good in that regard. It gives your really bad hands a chance to be really good, which is definitely desired. Then for Cosmic Cyclone, this was probably the last card in the deck. It was really between this, Droll, and Impermanence, and I think Impermanence is also another good option just because it can be another hand trap. But I went with the Cosmic Cyclone because I found that against the monster-based decks, this deck can generally do well enough when you go first, because you're gonna be ending on Apollousa Beatrice, Scarm, Search, or Tour Guide, and that's gonna win you most of your games. And then there really isn't anything on top of that that's good enough. Like having Droll against a monster heavy deck doesn't do enough unless it's Spiral. And then against the trap decks is where I found that this deck really struggled, because your main opening, like if I go first, I'm assuming they're playing a monster deck. I'm assuming they're playing either Spiral, Invoked, or Salamangreat, to where against any of those, Apollousa Beatrice is going to be good enough. But if they're playing like a Altergeist or a Subterror or a slower pace deck, then that doesn't do enough, and I needed cards that are good in those matchups. And so that's where I felt the Cosmic Cyclone was good in those matchups, but also good against those other ones as well. Good against those top decks like Spiral. You can hit Resort, you can hit Last Resort. That can be very impactful. Against Salamangreat, you can be hitting the Rage, the Roar, again, very good. And then against Shaddolls, even there are going to be times where you can hit that El Shaddol fusion that maybe hurts them more than you think it will. And so their uses against all the top decks, but it's also good against Rogue as well. So I found that Cosmic Cyclone was a pretty decent option, but again, it was tough between that, Droll, and Permanence. I think they're all viable. It just depends on your local meta. But for me, I find that the back row decks are hardest to play against, and so I found that Cosmic Cyclone would be a good option. Twin Twisters is something that can sort of work in the same role, but the problem with Twin is that you're using another card in your hand, and so that leaves you with only 4 cards, and that's sometimes not enough. And so I felt the Cosmic Cyclone was the best in most cases. So that is it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. For the Burning Abyss cards, we have 1 Cherubini, 2 Dantes, 1 Beatrice, and then the Pilgrim Dante. Please excuse my gold rare Dante. But I found that Fusion Dante is actually a really good option right now, because so many decks can't deal with Beatrice very efficiently. I mean, it isn't like last format where you're playing against Widowmakers, Mirage Stalios, and Dingirsus every round, but now you're playing against decks that literally have no out outside of maybe Overload. And so it's or that one topologic monster, but most decks are just, or Unicorn, but most decks, if they have to go into Unicorn to out my Beatrice, I'm fine with that. But most decks don't have like easy outs to it anymore. And so I found that Pilgrim Dante is actually a pretty good option. I mean, you look at like Spirals. They have to go through their whole combo in order to really generate the resources to out it efficiently again. But if they're able to go through their combo, you lose. And we're trying to stop their combo. And so Beatrice is usually going to do that. It doesn't matter whether or not they're able to clear it. If you're playing against Salamangreat, they're trying to grind with you. They have no outs to Beatrice with Salamangreat. Like no outs at all anymore. And so and Dante Pilgrim is even harder for them to out. And so I really like it in that matchup against the Shaddolls. It's very powerful because sure they can out Beatrice, but it's very difficult and hard for them to out Beatrice and then Dante. Then you're drawing a card with Dante, and then it's just tough. So it's just good in so many of the top matchups, I think, and against Rogue, where some Rogue decks are gonna have outs to it, but I find in most cases they don't. At least not this format. So I have actually enjoyed the Dante Pilgrim, surprisingly. Although it's gold. Gold rare one isn't as good as the secret rare. For the link 2s, we have IP Masquerena and Nightmare Phoenix. For the link 3s, we have Nightmare Unicorn and Topologic Trisbania. Trisbania is actually really good right now, especially against back row heavy decks. It's very difficult for decks to kind of play around, and it's easy for us to go into, especially with IP Masquerena. And so what I'll do in a lot of cases with classic like Cherubini plus Dante with Seer attached is I'll use the or I'll go into IP Masquerena plus the Dante with Seer attached, and then I'll link those into a Topologic Trisbane on the opponent's turn, and then Seer will revive like some random Burning Abyss monster. Dante add back Seer. Seer will special summon again the random BA monster to trigger Trisbana, and it'll clear all the back row, which is really difficult for decks to play through afterwards. And if you're going against a monster heavy deck, what you can do is there's a combo to where you're ending with Trisbana pointing at your opponent's extra monster zone, and so whatever they summon in the extra monster zone gets banished. And that's difficult for decks like Salamangreat to play through, because they usually like what they summon is just in their extra monster zone. Like they would summon their Balinks there, their Sunlight Wolves there, everything goes there. So you're just banishing them, and then they're not being able to get their on-field effects. Well, Balinks is because it's a trigger effect, but not Sunlight Wolf. And so it's really difficult for them to play through as well. And if they try to not do that, and they just try to like set like a rage or something, then you know that's fine as well. You just skip their turn. So Trisbane is very strong. Unicorn is obvious. Then for the link 4s we have, ooh, drop my Apollousa. Yeah, okay. For the link 4s we have Avermax, Boral Sword, Overload, and Apollousa. Apollousa is what we go into most often. It's, you know, our main ending board, like you know, Beatrice and Apollousa. Most decks can't get through that. But then we have Boral Sword and Overload as just kind of outs for various matchups. Boral Sword is gonna help you go for game in a lot of cases against the clear board. Boral Sword, Beatrice's game. Overload is difficult for a lot of decks to deal with, like Spiral can't really deal with it very well. Avermax is also very difficult for certain decks to deal with, especially if you can summon it with an IP Masquerena. So then it can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. If they do somehow get it off the field, you shuffle back a card on the field. So it's just very good there. It's kind of like a Towers in that case, so it's very strong. And a lot of people don't really see that coming either. Like when you have IP Masquerena, they think you're always going to go into the Unicorn, but then when you go into the Avermax, they can't deal with like it's like a Towers. It's very, very powerful, especially again when you have that tour guide in your hand as the follow-up that you got from the Scarm. Don't forget your Scarm search, by the way. But it's very, very good. I also like this against the trap decks because a lot of the trap decks again don't have outs to this because you can't target it. So Avermax is very good. And then the final 2 cards in the extra deck are Wenda and this level 3 fusion monster. And for a while I was playing Thousand Eyes Restrict, but the reason I switched from Thousand Eyes to this was because there were so many games to where I'll be going second, I have instant fusion, I'm like, ooh, I'll Thousand Eyes my opponent's monster, but then afterwards I realized I have a monster in the field that is not a Burning Abyss monster, and so I can't continue my plays. And it's also level 1, so it just doesn't synergize with anything. And so I really did not like that very much. I didn't think it just lacked too much synergy, and I felt that this was better because there are a couple of hands to where you're able to maybe use a Libic or your tour guide or your Scorpio gets stopped, or after you summon your Cherubini and you have Cherubini plus Seer instant fusion. Again, in that situation you can summon Wenda, but you can also summon this and then go into a Dante and then continue your plays. And so I just found that this was more flexible, it worked better with the deck, and so this is what I've definitely been enjoying right now. But let's go ahead and get into the side deck. I'm trying to go through this pretty quickly because I did not realize how long this video was getting, and I don't want to waste you guys' time. So getting to the side deck, let's do this quickly. We have 2 Droll and Lockbirds because Spirals, 3 Twin Twisters, 3 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Evenlies, 3 Eradicators, and 1 Imperial Order. Definitely loving this side deck. It's been carrying me in a lot of matches. So pretty much when I'm going second against monster decks, Dark Ruler No More and Evenly are really good. So against Spirals, this would be what I would side in, and then also side in the Drolls. If I'm going first against like a back row heavy deck or like a rogue deck, then I don't know why I picked these up, but I would go with the Twin Twisters and the Evenlies because these are going to deal with any kind of back row cards. If I'm going first, I believe the main deck in most cases is good against like monster decks like Spiral, so I would decide in the Drolls, and then sometimes Imperial Order just depends on what build they're playing. Like if they're playing the Extravagance build, I'll play this, but if not, I maybe won't, or I won't side this in if, you know, it's a game 3 in time or something, because you can lose games like this too. Also, being a continuous trap can at times be problematic because it's gonna stop you from special summoning Burning Abyss monsters on turn 2. So sometimes this, sometimes not, it just depends, but definitely the Droll. And then if I'm going first against back row decks, or spell decks like Shadalls, these are going to go in. This is very easy to resolve because you can just make Topologic Trisbana and then tribute that. And then again, like if you have Beatrice, Trisbana, and then Eradicator, you win for sure. And so I found this to be very strong in those matchups as well. Now, there are some cards that I really wanted to play, like Retaliating Sea for Shadalls, but I found that again, it puts a monster on your board that is not a Burning Abyss monster, and you want to reduce that happening as much as possible because, again, that has negative synergy. Same with Nibiru. That's another card that I think is so powerful you almost have to play in every deck that can afford to play it. But unfortunately, this deck cannot afford to play it, and so I'm not playing it. But yeah, this is the side deck. I've actually really been enjoying the side deck. I think it's very good, but feel free to mess around with it. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching so much. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded a video, so I hope you guys have been doing well in that time since. Again, if you enjoyed this video, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video, which hopefully it won't be 3 months from now. Hopefully it'll be like next week or something, because again, I have a bunch of regionals coming up, so I've been playing a lot more than I have in the past couple of months. Just been busy with work and everything like that, but hopefully I'm going to be able to play a lot more coming up soon, and I want to be able to share that with all of you. So again, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.